Hello everyone, Amy here from Temple of She. I wanted to come in this afternoon to tell you a story and to tell you my story. And I have told this story in pieces here and there and little snippets around, and there's a little bit on my website, there's a little bit in the intro video here on Temple of She Facebook page, but I wanted to tell you the whole story, my whole story of how I've come to be sitting in front of you here today in Bali doing this. So for a long time now, for over a decade, I have been a midwife, and I remember it was just something I always knew that I was going to do. Like, it was more than that I wanted to do it, I just knew that that's who I was and that that's what I would do. And I went off and that dream became a reality, and I studied and I moved to New Zealand and I did my degree and I practiced, and I was an independent midwife. I did home births and all kinds of incredible, beautiful things with midwifery, and I knew I wanted more. My dream in midwifery was to travel the world and experience midwifery in as many cultures and countries and places as I possibly could, and that led me into my third world work, where I worked for a few different humanitarian aid organisations and travelled the world and worked in amazing places like Pakistan and India and Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, all different places, Vanuatu, and it really broadened my horizons, my attitudes, my cultural awareness and my skills as a midwife. And then I ended up in Melbourne in the publicly funded home birth program, which is an incredible program that gives women free access to home birth, which is a really incredible thing. And so I worked there for 3.5 years in total, I think, in the end, which was a beautiful place to be in the beginning. Great team, great management, really beautiful. And then one day things changed. Things changed quite dramatically. And I have struggled with telling this story because in part I feel like it's not just my story. There's other people that this story is more potent for, perhaps, if you like. But it was my story as well, and it changed my life significantly, so I want to share that. So I had a birth where there wasn't a great outcome, as we always hope for in birth, and that was the catalyst for an incredible process which I then had to undergo. And it was the hospital's choice to persecute me. And so I then spent 12 months undergoing a 21st century witch hunt, which was my dark night of the soul. That took me into the deepest, darkest corners of human existence that I didn't know existed within me, but I discovered them. And it tore my heart out, and it was having the thing that you love the most in the world, the thing that runs in your veins, the thing that you live and breathe for in every single moment, and then have someone or an organisation turn around and say to you, actually, not only are you really terrible at that, but you're dangerous at that. And for myself and my identification as a midwife, broke me. Absolutely broke me. And, oh sorry, I hope you can hear me over the water. And yeah, it really began a transformation process for me. And what I discovered was that people who I thought were my supporters, my management, who was women, just everyday fucking women who were on my side, were all of a sudden not. And it was an incredible lesson in people keeping their own head above water and not worrying about anybody else. And, you know, all of a sudden, this woman who was my number one support and was kind of my lifeline threw me under the bus. Absolute betrayal. And I just, you know, that for me was the icing on the cake. It just absolutely broke me as a human being. And literally ended my midwifery career as I knew it. And the process of that, every day having to wake up and live it, and, you know, this 21st century witch hunt was fucking, it was torture. And then I got to the end of it, and the organisations, the boards that were involved finished their investigation process, and I got a letter and a phone call and said, oh, here you go, well, yeah, you didn't do anything wrong. And in that moment, I just went, well, fuck you all, goodbye. And I walked out the door and closed it behind me and never fucking looked back. And I learned so much about myself in that process. So much. And it didn't stop there. The learning has not fucking stopped. But the one thing that I realized in that whole entire process was that what it got me through it was something in here. Something in this being somewhere was fucking strong enough, courageous enough to just hold my head above the water enough so that I could breathe and get through to the next day. And I was kind of astonished, to be honest. And I realized there's something in me that is really fucking powerful and that is bigger than all of this, than all of these organizations, these powers that be, these people and things that we perceive and create in our lives to destroy us. And I turned my back on midwifery for a while because I was hurt and I was traumatized. It gave me PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which later, so this was about 3.5 years ago now. So some time after that, I had to turn to medication for the depression and the PTSD that was created. And that was a big thing for me because I'm not one to use those, but I knew that I needed something to create a foundation, a platform for me to step onto to get higher than just breathing. And 6 months I used that. And they say that, you know, you have to wean off particularly antidepressants. Like, it's a slow process, it's really delicate. And I used them for 6 months, and one morning I woke up and went, I don't need this anymore, I'm done. And I literally stopped taking the pills, and I did not have one single withdrawal symptom, nothing. I was literally done with them. My body was done. We switched off the need, the mechanism for them, and they went in the bin, and I have never used them since. So that was like maybe 2 years ago. And what I then did was start to wake up and start to go, okay, what is this thing inside of me? How can I kind of recognize it and pull it out even more? And if I've got it, other women have it. So I started to investigate, and I started to draw on the things that midwifery had taught me and the things that I had noticed in midwifery about women and their bodies and their relationship with their bodies. And I started to realize that women were kind of disconnected from their nipples down, like the bottom half of us just didn't exist. I thought, what is in that? Because I feel like that is where our power comes from. So I then started this epic fucking journey of self-discovery, of really trying to figure out what was this thing inside of me that got me through literal hell, that I survived. And Temple of She was born, and I realized that there was this space within me that was like a temple, that was so fucking powerful and so sacred that it needed to be served. It needed to have awareness drawn to it. It needed to have practices created around it to tap into it and kind of be able to harness that for me, but also for other women, which was kind of the byproduct, because, you know, it all started here with me. And so then slowly I started to discover yoni massage, and I started to look at women's sexuality, and I started to combine what my spiritual mentor was teaching me throughout this process and kind of bring it all together with my own flavor. And, you know, my passion for midwifery has never reignited. And I don't think it ever will. And I'm totally okay with that. I've grieved that. And I have let it go. Because I served my heart in that time. And my heart now serves something else. And it serves something so much fucking bigger. So I've gone now, I no longer just serve the birthing women. I serve all fucking women because of this thing that I discovered inside of me. And I realized that women are so fucking powerful, but they don't realize it. Or if they do, they've worked really hard to switch it off, shut it down, suppress it. And that's not okay. Because that was what resulted in me being thrown under the bus. That was what resulted in me having other women betray me. That is what makes us feel insignificant, lack of self-worth, and lets our ego fucking run riot. And that is not okay. And no, I am not a victim of what happened to me. I fully am aware that I was a co-creator in all of that, because it's gotten me to where I am now. So I want to pull this power out of you. I want to pull this power out of women so that we can stop the fucking sister wound. So that we can stop burning the witches. So that we can stop fucking prosecuting each other for being in our power. Because that's all I was. You know, the hospital needed to make an example out of me. I was one of the home birth midwives. I was the weird one. I was the hippie one. I was the one who always spoke up. Yeah, you could hear me, and everybody knew who I was because I was that midwife. And it was a perfect opportunity to be made an example of. And I'm fully aware that I was a co-creator in that. And I want women to stop being prosecuted for exactly that, just as I was. So that is why now I do yoni massage. I run courses for women to get in touch with what I now know that thing is the power of the divine feminine. So I teach women how to access that. I run courses on how to dig through all the fear and the shit and the layers that are on top of that to stop you from suppressing it, or to stop you from persecuting other women for tapping into it. Because fuck, we love to do that as women. But it's become something that is so ingrained in our society and who we are as women. And it's not okay. So now I spend my days with women, showing them how fucking powerful they are, how remarkable they are, how sexy they are, how sexual they are, and how that is a power, not a fucking weakness. It is not dangerous. It is not promiscuous. It is your power. And when you fucking are ready to acknowledge that and really hold that, your life will change forever, as mine has. Like, unbelievably. 5 years ago, I lived and breathed midwifery, and it was my passion, and I did nothing else. Now, I fucking live. I live in Bali. Today I had an incredible massage. I swim in the afternoons. I serve women in the most profound, powerful way. And it is because of that day, that birth, that hospital, that woman who needed to save herself and sacrifice me. And that's okay. Yeah, I can say that now. I couldn't say that 2 years ago. I couldn't. Because I was the victim of my story for some time. But not anymore, because I can see the value in it. Thank you for listening. And I really hope that it touches something in you and even just helps you to realize there is that something in you as well. And it is there and waiting for when you are ready. Much love.